Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a mid-month reading check-in. So I'm going to go through the books I've read this month and the books that I still want to read this month if there's time. If maybe I'll get to more, who knows. But these are the books that I really want to make sure that I read by the end of the month, hopefully. And the books I've already read. And I wanted to make this video because I thought it might be fun to talk to you guys about the books I've been reading to give you guys ideas, ones I've been really loving, because honestly lately I've been liking like all the books I've read. I've been really into like YA fantasy series. I'm catching up on all the years that I was not reading these series since high school, so without further ado, let's hop into the video and talk about books. So the first book that I read this month was A Court of Mist and Fury. And this is the second in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, or ACOTAR. And if you've been watching my vlogs, you know that I read them all on my Kobo, but I liked the series so much that I wanted to get a physical copy, which is a common theme for me. You'll see if I like the first in a series, I just really need to buy the physical copy of books because I have a consumerism problem. But anyways, let's talk about this book. This book, I don't want to give any spoilers away in case you guys want to read the series. So the series takes place in in a place called Perinthian. Here, I'll show you the map that's in the book. So it takes place in Perinthian, and the Fae and the humans are separated after a war that took place a couple hundred years ago before the books take place. And Feyre, the main character of this book, is hunting for her family who lost all of their riches. Her father used to be a merchant, and she ends up killing a fairy, and then the fairy as revenge, a fairy takes her to his castle in Perinthian in the fairylands. And it's basically a Beauty and the Beast retelling, the first book, and then they made Sarah J. Maas, the author, made it into an entire series. So this is the second book in the series, and the love interest in this, so much better than the first guy. The only thing I'll say is that the reason I didn't give this 5 stars is because the beginning is so jarring. The characters seem to have had an entire personality switch, and I know why it happened. It's just that there's no backstory at all so you didn't get to see the characters develop into their new personalities. But so it was really jarring at first, but once you get further into it, I would say actually it takes about halfway, in my opinion, to really get into this book. But once you're in, you're gonna be hooked. So I'm also currently reading the third book in the series, which is A Court of Wings and Ruin, and all these books are super thick. So if you're bored, this series is great for you. But yeah, so I'm currently reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, which is the third, and I also want to try and read A Court of Silver Flames this month, which is the fourth in the series. All 3 of these follow Feyre, except for A Court of Silver Flames. This one is following her sister, Nesta. Yeah, her sister Nesta. And I'm not a huge fan of her sister, so I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but I've heard this book is super spicy. And there's also a novella that is in between the third and the fourth that follows Feyre and Rysand. So I'll probably read that this month too. I want to get through all of the ACOTAR series this month. Okay, so the next book that I read this month is A Chain of Iron. This book, let me tell you, heartbreaking, but I love it so much. I really liked The Infernal Devices, which is sort of a prequel to this. It's a different series altogether, but it is in the Shadowhunter universe. It takes place before this. So, and I read all of those in high school. all the Shadowhunter books. So last year, near the beginning of the pandemic, my friends and I all decided we'd pick up her newest book in the series, which was Chain of Gold, because we all wanted to start getting back into reading more, and we figured what better way than to jump back into our favorite universe from high school. And I reread Chain of Gold. When I first read it last year, I honestly wasn't like the biggest fan of it, just because I felt it was really similar to plotline to Infernal Devices. But I read it again this year and I liked it a lot more. I think what was hard last year about it too is because it had been so long since I read the series that all the names and like the Shadowhunter families and everything were just really confusing to read about to get back into it. So if this is your first, I don't recommend this as your first book in the Shadowhunter universe because it's just very confusing. You're not going to understand the backstory behind the different families, why people don't like each other, anything like that. So I don't know if I recommend this one to start with, but so that's why I didn't like it at first. But rereading it this year, I love the characters so much in this. I love Cordelia. She's just such a strong person, both mentally and like in her heart. And I'm so excited for the third book to come out. I need it to come out like tomorrow, but it's not going to be coming out until like next year. But Chain of Iron, it's so good. It's even better than this one for sure. And usually I find that second books and like trilogies and things like that usually fall are the worst of the books because they are still like, you don't really have as much to wrap up. Like you can't really wrap up a story in the second book. You have to, and also you already sort of developed the character, so you're just sort of developing them more in their interactions and things like that. So anyways, usually second books are, in my opinion, usually the worst of a trilogy, but this one, I loved it. I love the time period it takes place in. It takes place in, what year is it again? I mean, I can't remember, but it's like 18th century London, I think. And I just love the whole dynamic of it taking place in the past. It's just, I don't usually love historical fiction, but these are so good. Anyways, I highly recommend getting into the Shadowhunter series universe if you're looking to get into a YA fantasy series, because I find that they're really easy to read and there's just so many books that you're not gonna run out of books for a very long time if you decide to get into these. Okay, and the third book that I read this month is Shadow and Bone. I don't have a physical copy of it because I read it on my e-reader, and I guess you guys can tell because I don't actually have the physical copy that I wasn't like the biggest fan of it, or else I probably would have bought the series. But I just really didn't like the main character, and so I mean, I'm gonna read the rest of this series, probably not this month. I probably won't get to the second and third in the trilogy until next month, but I really want to read all of the books in the Grishaverse universe. I feel like every single book that I'm talking about right now I've gone down the YA fantasy rabbit hole. I'm in so many different universes right now, but I'm loving it. It's really taken me out of the whole fact that we're in a second stay-at-home order in Ontario, so... But anyways, so Shadow and Bone, if you didn't know, is getting made into a television series that is coming out at the end of April-ish. So I really wanted to start the series before that, and I'm really glad I did because I'm really looking forward to watching the television show. The trailer looks really good, and I'm a big fan of the Darkling. I've only read the first book, and I know I'm not supposed to like him, but I'm a big fan, and I'm really excited to see what happens with his character. I'm really excited to see the like tension between Alina and the Darkling continue. Okay, so the fourth and final book that I've read this month so far is Throne of Glass. This is another series by Sarah J. Maas, and it is 8 books, which I have ordered the rest of them because I loved this book. I liked this better than ACOTAR, and that is a very controversial thing to say, apparently, because I just liked that it wasn't so reliant on the romance and that you really got to see the badass female fighting to save herself, to save her friends, and everything like that. And the character development she goes through in this book is just so good, and I'm so excited to see to see further into her character development, because I know I'm just going to fall more and more in love with Selena. What happens in this book, I'm really bad at explaining what happens in books. What happens in this book is basically Selena is an assassin who previously was put into a criminal jail where she was mining, and she gets taken out of there to compete in this competition for the king. He wants a champion, so there's like 15, I think, criminals that have to fight against each other to the final duel where one of them will become the king's champion. But while she's at the castle, she makes friends with the prince and the captain of the guard and a princess from a different land, and there's an evil that's inside the castle that she has to fight alongside because they're killing the other champions, and it's just wild in the best possible way. So excited to read the rest of the series. I, again, probably won't get to any more of these books this month, but this summer, I'm coming for you. I'm going to be reading this so much. I'm really excited. Really excited. Okay, now on to the books that I want to read. I already told you that I'm currently reading A Court of Wings and Ruin, but I'm also reading The Alice Network. I got the audiobook from the library. This is my first audiobook in a very long time, but this book has been on my TBR forever, and I really haven't been enjoying listening to podcasts as much anymore, so I figured I'd try out audiobooks, see how it goes, and I'll let you know how I like it. So far, I'm digging it. It's a really cool story. It's a historical fiction and takes place after the Second World War, and sort of in the Second World War. So there's 2 different storylines. One follows a girl who's trying to find her cousin after the World War, where her cousin was in France and they're not sure what happened to her. And then the second storyline follows a girl who's I think she's in France, but I don't think it's not her cousin, who ends up being a part of the resistance in France. So I haven't gotten too far into it, but it sounds like it sounds really interesting, and I've had so many people recommend this book to me, so I'm excited to keep reading it. Okay, so I'm currently reading 3 different books. Of course I am. I'm also currently reading Namesake. It's the second in the Fable duology, and let me show you these covers because they are so beautiful. This is probably the prettiest duology I've ever seen in my life. They perfectly fit together to make Fable's face, and it's just, isn't that so pretty? Oh. So this is a YA pirate fantasy book, which if you told me that I'd be reading this last year, I would probably have been like, that sounds weird. No, I'm not. But Fable is so cool. I love her. So the first one, Fable, is her father, who is I don't know how to describe him. He is the head of a bunch of ships and crews, and he's like considered dangerous. Anyways, and nobody knows he has a daughter, and he leaves her on this island by herself after her mom dies because he wants to toughen her up. And so the first half of that book takes place on the island, and you see her, like, how she's had to work to survive, and then she finally gets passage on a ship to go back to see her father, because her father said that once, if she can get off the island herself, then he'll give her her inheritance and he'll take care of her. Anyways, I don't want to spoil that book too much more than that. So that Namesake takes place after that, and I love Fable again. I'm only like 100 pages into it. They're both fairly short books, so it's something that you could easily get through. If you're just getting into YA, this might be a good start for you because it's quite short and doesn't have like a ton of world building in it, so it's not too tough of a read. I'm really excited to keep reading in this series, but yeah, I just don't want to say what this one's about just because I don't want to give away any spoilers for Fable. I really like to see the dynamic between her and her father and her and love interests in these books. So yeah, I'm excited to see what else is going to happen in these. Okay, and so the only other book that I want to get done this month is I've joined a book club called TBR Book Club. So I obviously need to read that book this month, which is Ninth House. I don't have a physical copy of it yet, but I did order it, so it's coming. It's more of a dark academia paranormal book, and I'm really excited to read it. I've heard really good things about it. It was on my list already of books that I eventually wanted to read, but it's a good excuse to read it as part of a book club, and then I get to discuss it with people. So that's the only other book that I want to read this month. It is, I guess it's going to be a series, but the second book in the series is not going to be coming out for a long time. There's no announcement date or anything like that, so as of right now, I'm going to treat it as a standalone unless I really like it. But yeah, I'm really excited to read it as part of my book club. That's the only other book that I want to read this month. So that's the end of this video. I'm sorry that I rambled on about books for so long, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you start any of these books, let me know because I would love to discuss them with you. And anyways, I'm gonna end the vlog here, or end the video here. Sorry, I'm so used to saying vlog. I'm gonna end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe so you don't miss any other reading content book videos like this again, and I will talk to you guys in my next one. Bye guys!